Hello and welcome to Everybody Podcast. I'm Daria Matza. A few months ago in episode 14 with Lucy Aphramor, I asked you to post follow-up questions for Lucy, and some of you posted wonderful questions on Instagram, and this episode is those answers, so it's just like a little bonus. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, I recommend you don't start here. So let's get started. The first question comes from Fat Body Peace. Will those poems be in print somewhere? Lucy responds, yes, the poem is in the book Raise the Roof. I can send details about how to order a copy if you like. Just email me at lucy.aphramor@gmail.com. The second question comes from jilllepire, I hope that's right. Is it ever okay to try to change your physical body while being body positive? If so, how does one do that without being sucked into the diet mindset? Hi, jilllepire. Thanks for your question. In fact, I talk a lot about body respect in my work rather than being body positive, so I can't speak for body positive folk. One reason I focused on respect is that I think the idea of being positive in this context can easily get to be about rules, pretty much as you highlight in your question. As this gets in the way of what is intended, it can mean people feel they are failing if they don't feel positive all the time, or in your case, failing because you want to change your body. That's a stumbling block in terms of encouraging self-acceptance. To my thinking, it's okay to explore whatever it is we feel we need to, with that hope that we are able to always keep ourselves safe in this. This is what I mean by body respect, that we respect our body's direction and are curious about what we feel drawn to and notice our impetus to change without judging ourselves, knowing it holds meaning for us, even if part of that meaning escapes us right now. In other words, I believe there is always a healing purpose in our desires and actions, though this drive to healing may not be immediately obvious. So wanting to change contains within it the drive to repair and connect. Maybe we were told we had to look a certain way to be okay. Wanting to change that way makes good sense to a part of us trying to protect ourselves. The desire makes sense, but the outcome we wish for may not be possible. This can be a hard dilemma to sit with. If we're able to notice the conflict from a place of compassion, and especially if we are able to check in with folk who help hold us in this place, then we are aligned with our drive to heal and can start to make sense of our experiences in a way that is meaningful. The need to be different and to get things right, that's a quote-unquote, serves as purpose. As we get more comfortable sitting with ambivalence and acceptance, we can explore this and find new perspective and choices. I wonder how things might feel different if you switch from a focus on changing the physical aspect of your body onto noticing the feeling part of your body. Questions might be like, what will I feel better for? Instead of, what should I do? Look better, get leaner, bulk up, or whatever. For me, I hear the diet mindset in the idea, I'm not doing it right if I can't follow the rules, or I've failed if I have ambivalent feelings. Example, I'm not body positive if I want to change my body. The deep thinking of the diet mindset is, I'm not good enough because ... I think we can always experiment with being gentle and curious with ourselves, letting go of blame and the idea of failure, including when we wish we were different. The core point I return to is that you are okay, whether you're body positive or not, whether you sign up to body respect or not, whether you spend a lifetime wanting to change your physical body. Your worth as a valuable human being deserving of love and respect and compassion is indisputable. You are good enough. You always will be, and you always were. And I'm sorry you lost or never got to know this. Reminding ourselves and each other of our innate humanity is my take on letting go of the dieting mindset. Here's part of a poem I wrote that gives more context to my ideas. Right in this room, 1,000,000 women hours have dragged past in our thoughts of being more by being leaner, cleaner, slimmer, trimmer, thinner. Shame. I was taught your contours. I was not born calling any flesh excess. Whoever you are, however much you wish your body different, I count you in when I ask which of us has value. Through all the stages of the selves you would create, your worth holds fast. Your worth is stable, unchanging, innate. When we know this, we loosen the grip of the diet mindset and can grieve its passing and acknowledge the role it played in getting us here. I hope there is something in here that is useful, even if it's because you disagree. That's okay. It means you are learning to trust yourself, which is great. I wish you all the best as you find your way back to inhabiting your okayness. Warm wishes, Lucy. The next question comes from We Foodies. I'd love to hear more from her around the evidence based on the biological impact of weight stigma and the ways to challenge the quote-unquote, tackling obesity conversation in public health. Hi. There's a lot of research and data around the biological impact of weight stigma. First, there is general info that shows living with stigma/chronic stress has a detrimental impact. This is psychological and physiological. The fact that a particular group is being discriminated against also has broader human right implications and social media impact, of course. I'm most familiar with the evidence on stigma/chronic stress and heart disease, and the Whitehall study is a great reference source. A key researcher is Michael Marmot. He coined the phrase status syndrome to account for the fact that living with stigma of a low social status impacts health. Second, there is data on weight stigma per se. A useful overview paper is, she gives the link there, and that will be in my show notes, though there is some inconsistencies in the theory presented. In more detail, quote, stress-induced activation of the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis increases cortisol production, which exerts hyperphagic and antithermogenic effects. Differential rates of responsiveness to cortisol between abdominal and subcutaneous fat, together with hormonal and enzymatic changes, mean that stress responses preferentially favor abdominal fat deposition. In healthy individuals, acute stress does not appear to lead to deleterious effects, but repeated stress may lead to long-term changes that predispose to metabolic syndrome, especially in people who are insulin resistant. On perhaps a more familiar level, stress is known to affect eating behavior, food choices, gastrointestinal disorder. That's from a Murcott 1999 study. In addition, there is recent evidence that mental stress may trigger peripheral inflammatory response, which subsequently increases morbidity and mortality. That's from Tappy 2004 study and Black 2003. In Aphramor 2005 is a weight-centered health framework, end of quote. Weight stigma has biological impact through metabolic consequences of chronic stress. This is back to Lucy. Weight stigma has biological impact and metabolic consequences of chronic stress, and through influencing health-seeking behavior. Work in fat studies, example the Fat Studies Reader, are good sources for info on this. I've also attached an article I wrote that addresses the interlink my thinking has changed on what HAES is since I wrote this, but the gist of the argument can still be useful. What have you found useful and less useful changing the conversation? I find challenging deep assumptions by asking questions can engage people in conversation rather than lead to a reflex defensiveness. I ask things that lead us to untangle the impact of behaviors and social factors, including respect on health, and explore the real-life impact of weight correction on dieters' health, sense of self, and how this enhances justice and normalizes oppression. There's a video on my website, Untangling Health, Respect Behaviors, where I go into this in more detail. I've also found it really helpful to ask questions that bring health impact, trauma, and agency into view. In a room of 100 people, if we all eat and exercise the same, but some of us go home to violent relationships and some of us to loving relationships, will our health outcomes be the same? I find helpful to frame things in a way that help people articulate a new perspective for themselves and open up a dialogue rather than feeding facts. In this scenario, at a very basic level, they can discover there's more to well-being than diet and activity, which starts to disrupt the assumptions of weight correction agendas. I hope some of this was useful, and I wish you the best in your work, Lucy. The next question comes from Wandering Jinn. Does Lucy have a script for confronting one's parents about the damage they've done by commenting on one's weight and appearance almost daily, starting at a very young age? I've let go of a lot of my anger towards them, and I'm in a better place, but I worry that they're continuing to make weight-related comments to my much younger cousins, and will start on my nieces in a couple of years if they haven't already. I really feel I should speak up and protect them, at the very least by no longer hiding the self-destructive things I've done as a result of self-loathing, which they planted the seeds. My fear, of course, is that they won't believe me, will insist they were right, and that I was/am just being too sensitive. From Lucy. Hello, Wandering Jinn. I'm so sorry for how you've suffered as a result of your parents' actions. This shouldn't have happened, and the fact that it is still happening is appalling. And sadly, also understandable in that it fits with the cultural script of judgment and inadequacy that we are born into. It's really heartening to learn that you've been able to identify this as wrong and find ways to move away from it. Bravo, you. When I first started realizing the mess we were in with weight and trying to change things, I confronted colleagues with the damage we/they were wrecking. I slowly learned that confrontation mainly led colleagues to shame, and they retreated for attacking, benefiting no one. Now, I seek a conversation that enables engagement instead. I believe we need conflict, otherwise we support the status quo. But I avoid framing things in a way that implies I think they are wrong and I'm right. Instead, I ask questions, often about feelings and consequences, intentional and unintentional. In doing so, I want to enact an open-minded curiosity, the same curiosity I am inviting the listener to engage in, without fear of judgment. This isn't about dumbing things down. I hold very strong views. I think we need to acknowledge harm that's been done, and I am passionate about the need to change. When I look at the deep roots of what I'm doing, I can see that if I try and impose my view, however right I believe it to be, then I am enacting conquest and domination. I know I'm skipping through things and I can seem a bit of a stretch, but this drive to conquest is the root of a stereotype, binary thinking, judgment, fascism. So I aim to start a conversation without any agenda to change the other person, whether colleague, parent, client, etc. My agenda is for real dialogue, the hope that we meet each other in the difficult places. The paradox is that by withdrawing from the need to change someone, change becomes more possible. In this way, we foster true emancipation. Having folk to connect with for a reality check, for comfort, for sustenance supports me in this approach. At heart, I see we are building a fairer world, hearing from shame and disconnect, living for a vision of peace as love's work. Compassion is therefore essential, starting with self-compassion. This enables me to feel the grief, loss, anger, outrage, without being crushed by it. To find compassion for those who harmed me, whose fresh actions hurt me, who continue to silence me, who would still harm me if that's what it came to protect their worldview, to know when to stay engaged and when to let it be and move on. When I practice compassion, I am more able to open conversation about harms done in ways that offer alternatives to harm. So a long answer to say, I'm afraid, I can't offer a script. I've found the well-now way markers of, quote, your story matters, compassion, curiosity, and connection help me build paths I want to travel in the direction I want to go. As a few real-life pointers, could you reflect back a comment to ask your parents about what weight means to them personally? Or start a conversation about weight where you recall times they tried to help you with your weight. Link this to your younger relatives and ask if they want to know what you've found to be useful, and share how it can be/has been damaging. It would be great if there was someone you could role play with this first. Above all, of course, look after yourself. Warm wishes, Lucy. And last, from Little Tulipsco, hopefully that's right, I'd like to know how Lucy thinks we can build our self-compassion in a really practical way. And also, if it's okay to want to lose weight. It feels like if we're fully accepting of your body, you shouldn't want to change it. But I was at a Kindful Eating workshop with Lucy, and she was all about questioning self-talk. Does that make sense? Thank you. This is from Lucy. Hi. Oh, self-compassion. Well, it took me a long time to figure things out, but I finally realized my default self-talk about body response had changed. I've attached a worksheet that outlines a 3-step approach. Maybe you can add some phrases in your own words. I can say with some confidence that it will take exactly as long as it takes to feel the change. No more, no less. And I am with you in your journey. Personally, practicing body awareness went hand in hand with letting go into self-compassion. So I've attached a worksheet for this too. There's loads of really great stuff freely available. Look for mindfulness, relaxation, body scans, etc. as apps, courses, coloring books about wanting to lose weight and acceptance. The explanation you've given is one way of looking at things. I often hear acceptance, quote, used as meaning, quote, being happy with how things are and not wanting things to change, unquote. The way I see it, acceptance means recognizing my reality and accepting it for what it is without judging myself for the reality of my thoughts, my body, my needs, etc. The acceptance is that I am fully accepting of my reality. In the above scenario, this means 1, I accept I want to be accepting, and I am okay. 2, I accept I want to lose weight, and I am okay. 3, I accept I feel ambivalent, and I am okay. 4, perhaps I accept this makes me feel daft, confused, and I am okay. What I try to do is notice when the thoughts come in. This gives them a soft landing where I can let go of the struggle. It is okay to feel your feelings. It is okay to have your thoughts. Just a reminder, whether you ever feel you crack acceptance, whether you want to lose weight or not, you are okay. I hope you can go gently. In peace, Lucy. Thanks for listening to these questions. Please send me your questions on any episode and I will do my best to get them answered by the interviewee. Until next time, friends.